All right, today we are diving deep into an absolutely legendary encounter. We've got the complete battle log for a team called Calum the Gang, and we're going to break down how they stared down impossible odds and somehow came out on top. So let's get into it and see exactly how they pulled this thing off.
And that really is the million-dollar question, right? How does a single team take down what is basically an army of monsters? I mean, on paper, this looks like a total party wipe, no question. So, what was their secret? Was it just dumb luck, incredible gear, or was it pure tactical genius? Well, we're about to find out. First up, let's just take a moment to appreciate what they were up against. This was not a handful of goblins in a cave. They were facing an ancient gold dragon, a monstrous 10 hydra, a venomous greater wyvern, powerful elementals, and a literal swarm of dragon spawn. Any one of these is a boss fight. All of them together, that's an apocalypse. The stakes just could not be higher.
Okay, so to understand how Calum even survived, we have to look at how they fought back. And the very first thing that jumps out from the logs is their absolutely staggering offensive power. They weren't sitting back and defending. No, they were launching an all-out, overwhelming assault.
And leading that charge were two key players. You've got Zachka, the monk, who could unleash a dizzying 7 attacks in a single round, and then there's Tinsel, the bard, a true master of sword and magic, dual-wielding the legendary blades Flint and Steel. Look, these two weren't just damage dealers. They were a shock and awe campaign rolled into two characters. They were the engine of this party's offense.
Now, what's so cool about this slide is that this isn't a summary. This is a direct copy-paste from the battle log of one of Zachka's attack rounds. Just look at this, a relentless flurry of claws and bites. And notice those AC numbers. Those are the numbers they have to beat to do damage. They're incredibly low, meaning these attacks were insanely accurate. This wasn't just chipping away at the enemy. This was a wood chipper in action.
And that relentless assault? Well, it led to this. 108. That's not a typo. The log recorded 108 points of damage from a single blow against that 10 hydra. To put that into perspective, that's enough damage to completely vaporize most monsters in one shot.
And you don't have to take my word for how devastating that was, because the log actually records the monster's reaction. The 10 hydra itself says, "You hit me for 108 points of damage." This wasn't just a number on a spreadsheet, it was a blow so massive that the biggest, baddest monster on the field felt it, and the log lets us feel it too.
But here's the thing. All that damage would be totally useless if they were already dead. So their most powerful weapon wasn't a claw or a sword, it was speed. The real secret to their offense was controlling the pace of the fight by consistently winning initiative. That means they always got to act before their enemies could even react. And the logs prove it. I mean, just look at this chart of their average initiative rolls. The advantage is staggering. Zachka and Ralph the Berserker were lightning fast, consistently rolling in the 90s, letting them dictate every single move. Even the rest of the party totally outpaced the monsters, who were just constantly reacting to a fight that was already one step ahead of them.
But let's be absolutely clear. This was not a walk in the park. For all their insane offensive power, Calum was under immense constant pressure. They were weathering a storm of attacks that would have wiped the floor with most other parties.
And one of the most terrifying threats they faced was this: save or die poison. Now, for anyone who's not familiar, it's exactly what it sounds like. It doesn't matter how many hit points you have, how tough you are, you fail one roll, one single saving throw, and your character is just gone, instantly.
And here it is, pulled straight from the log. A greater wyvern lands a hit, and all of a sudden, nobody cares about the 20 points of damage. Everything hinges on that one crucial saving throw. This threat was constant, turning every single enemy attack into a potential one-hit kill. But as deadly as that poison was, the single greatest threat on the battlefield was the sheer volume of attacks coming from the 10 hydra. Why? Because it got an attack for every single one of its 10 heads.
And this is what that looked like. 10 separate attacks in one round, each one forcing a save against that deadly poison. I mean, the sheer volume of this assault is just an almost impossible to survive barrage. It's just overwhelming.
And the hydra wasn't even the only one dishing out insane damage. In a single round, the ancient gold dragon unleashed a combo of attacks that added up to 97 points of damage. This team wasn't just dodging single, lethal blows. They were absorbing absolutely incredible amounts of punishment, round after round.
So, you've got overwhelming attacks and lethal poison. How in the world did they turn the tide? Well, it wasn't just about hitting hard, it was about hitting smart. The tipping point to this whole battle came down to superior strategy.
Their strategy was simple, disciplined, and brutally effective. Focus fire. See, when you're facing an army of threats, spreading out your damage is a death sentence. So they identified the most dangerous enemy on the field, and the entire team concentrated all their power on that one target until it was completely gone. Only then did they move to the next threat.
And this slide just illustrates that strategy perfectly. This timeline shows the takedown of the 10 Hydra. Round 1, Zachka lands that massive 108 damage blow. The party doesn't get distracted. Tinsel follows up. Then the cleric Andanor chips in with magic. And finally, Zachka comes back around and finishes the job. A coordinated, focused effort that took the biggest problem off the board in just 4 rounds.
And what was the result of this decisive strategy? Well, one by one, the threats were eliminated. This quote from a defeated Greater Wyvern pretty much says it all, doesn't it? The party's focused approach meant that once they put a target in their sights, its time was very, very short.
So let's pull this all together. What are the key takeaways from Calem's incredible performance? What did they do well, and what can we all learn from the insane challenges they faced?
This performance review really gives us the full picture. Their strengths were just undeniable. Overwhelming damage, controlling the start of every single round, great magical support, and an ironclad tactical discipline. But those strengths were forged against incredible challenges, massive incoming damage, constant lethal threats, and just a seemingly endless horde of powerful enemies.
When you really look at the whole picture, the best way to describe Calem's performance is that they weren't just a group of adventurers. They operated like a highly trained special forces unit. Every action was precise, every decision was decisive, and the result was an absolutely overwhelming victory against an impossible foe.
And that brings us to our final thought. Looking at that initial wave of monsters, the dragon, the hydra, the wyvern, all of it, what would have been your first move? Would you have gone for the hydra like they did, or maybe tried to thin out that swarm of dragon spawn first? It's a fascinating tactical problem, and as we've seen in the logs, Calem's solution provides a masterclass in turning an unwinnable fight into a legendary victory.